Deep in the Egyptian desert, something really incredible is happening. It's a story about innovation that's sprouting up to tackle two of our biggest problems: rising food prices and water shortages. We're going to dive into how this one idea could literally change the future of farming. You've probably felt it yourself, right? At the grocery store, everything just keeps getting more expensive. And while there are a lot of reasons why, a huge part of the problem comes down to one critical thing that most of us never even see. That's right, it's about what we feed our livestock. The cost of animal feed is just going through the roof. The old-school traditional feeds are becoming way too expensive and use up way too many resources. And that creates this huge problem for farmers and, of course, for us. So to really get this, you gotta understand what farmers have been up against. For years, they've relied on crops like Bersim Hijazi. You probably know it as alfalfa. It's been a go-to for a long time. But in a place like Egypt, that go-to has turned into a giant headache. And here's the fundamental clash. On one hand, you've got alfalfa, a crop that is just incredibly thirsty. It drinks up a ton of water, and it's expensive to grow. But on the other hand, you have the reality of modern Egypt, a desperate need to save every drop of water and to find cheaper, more sustainable ways to feed everyone. The old way just wasn't cutting it anymore. Something had to give. So what's the answer? Well, it comes from a place you'd probably least expect: the New Valley, way out in the desert. See, instead of worrying about what the desert didn't have, a group of researchers started asking, what if we used what it does have? And look, this wasn't just some small side project. This was a huge team-up between some of Egypt's top minds at the Desert Research Center and the Agricultural Research Center. Their mission was crystal clear: find a way to make high-quality animal feed using stuff that was already there, stuff that was cheap, and most importantly, stuff that didn't need a lot of water. And what they landed on were two kind of unlikely heroes. The first is this tiny little floating water fern called Azolla, and the second, something the desert has tons of: palm fronds, which, were mostly just seen as waste. They figured out how to combine these two, and what they created was a game changer. All right, let's zoom in on the real star of the show here, this Azolla plant. Because this little fern, well, it's pretty much a superfood for livestock. So what exactly is it? Well, it's simple. Azolla is just this small fern that floats on top of ponds or canals. It's been around forever, but people are just now realizing that it's an absolute nutritional powerhouse. Get this, 44%. That's the protein content of Azolla. Let that sink in for a second. That's not just a little bit higher than alfalfa, it's significantly higher. So this isn't just a replacement, it's a serious upgrade. And the amount it can produce is it's off the charts. A single fadan, that's about an acre, can pump out 1 ton of Azolla every single day. And it's so easy to grow. It just needs a small pond, so easy that women in villages are starting to grow it right in their own homes. Plus, you plant it once, and it can keep producing for 5 to 7 years. It's unbelievably efficient. Okay, so that all sounds great on paper, right? But what happens when you actually start feeding this stuff to the animals? Well, the results are, yeah, they're pretty incredible. When they switched the livestock to this new Azolla and palm frond mix, milk production jumped by 20%, and meat, a staggering 30% increase. So this is the key point. It's not just a cheaper feed, it's a better feed that actually gives us more food. Dr. Majd Al-Mersi, one of the main people on this project, he summed it up perfectly. With this new feed, they can replace 50% of the expensive factory-made feed they used to buy. For a farmer, that is a massive amount of money saved. So let's just boil it down. It's a clear win-win-win. First, it's way cheaper for farmers. Second, it uses a fraction of the water compared to old crops like alfalfa. And third, it actually leads to more milk and more meat. It's the whole package. And you have to understand, this is so much bigger than just one cool experiment out in the desert. The ideas behind this are creating a whole new blueprint for how Egypt, and maybe the world, can approach farming in the future. And it turns out Azolla isn't the only trick up their sleeve. Researchers are also pushing another amazing alternative called Panicum grass. This stuff is basically a desert dweller's dream plant. I mean, just listen to this. It's still packed with protein, it can grow in super salty water that would kill most other plants, it loves the heat, and it only needs to be watered about once every 25 days. It's another powerful weapon in the arsenal against the feed crisis. And that's the real magic here, right? How scalable this is. Yeah, these ideas were born in the desert, But a plant like Azolla can be grown basically anywhere you have a little patch of water. We're talking about a strategy that could be rolled out across the entire country, from the desert all the way to the Nile Delta. And that brings us back to this one big question. Thanks to this incredible homegrown ingenuity, a place that many people wrote off as just barren sand could actually hold the key to a safer, more sustainable food future for an entire nation. The answer, it seems, is being grown right now, one tiny floating fern at a time.